So you saw that new Odyssey skin, right? I really wanted it, but let's be honest, I was not about to pay for it in the item shop. So I put my skills to the test in the Odyssey Cup to earn it for free. In order to get the skin, you have to finish in the top 700 to get the skin. In this video, I'm breaking down the exact gameplay and strategy that got me to 332 points. I'm going to show you every mistake and every correct decision I made as well, so you can have a roadmap for your next tournament. If you're trying to climb in ranked or win your next skin cup, this is the breakdown you need to see. Let's get into it. Starting off game 1, I outdropped this other player really hard, yet he still continued to contest me. After getting my mats up, I got visuals of a player using the sliders towards me, so my first instinct was to W key them. Here is their POV of the fight. Notice how I try to get constant pressure on the opponent? That is what you should do when in a fight. This will overwhelm them and force mistakes on their end. Right here, I was looking for some more eliminations, however, I actually got sprayed, which left me at a disadvantage going into the fight. I immediately made as much space as possible so I have more wiggle room to fight in. When on the defensive, it is important to go for counter damage in order to make yourself look like a tough player to eliminate. After I healed up, I started pressuring my opponent. The biggest mistake my opponent made was not making more space. He had so much mats but did not use them at all. And no matter what, never approach a box directly in front of it. Go from a diagonal position or else you will get shot really easily. As I'm rotating to higher elevation, I hear gunshots coming from my left, so I line up my shot and then instantly go pressure. One mistake I do make is standing in front of a wall. However, I am not swinging my pickaxe, I am holding my gun out ready to trade as I will win that outcome. But he does not go for an edit play, so I go from a different angle quickly. Again, I am approaching the box from a diagonal position. This keeps me protected from my opponent. Now I quickly notice that there is a player coming to third party, and I realize the opponent does not pressure me at all, so I assume they are not very skilled, so I bring the fight to the opponent. With this angle, I can safely swing to the left to hide myself from the opponent and swing right when I'm ready to shoot back. And suddenly another person decides to third party. I got a little bit of damage on him to start off the fight, however my opponent got good counter damage and caught me off guard, which forced me to play defensive and make more space. However, I noticed my opponent was more focused on stealing my loot than actually fighting, so I pressured him. My opponent does end up getting away. I do not chase this because I am at a disadvantage in terms of shield, so I let him leave because I still have extra shields on the players I eliminated earlier. I then see a player boxing up the vending machine, however he leaves his right side completely open, which was a clear sign to me of an easy elimination. If you're going to a vending machine, especially in a tournament, you should box it up completely. Heading into Endgame, I stick to the edge of Storm and try to wrap around circles so I can get in from a non-congested area. I do pause here because I do not want to greed my rotate and get beamed from behind, so I wait and then shock again. I do see a fight and I was going to commit to it, but I had to get myself into a good position. Good positioning is more important than just one kill. When Storm starts moving, I shocked from my box and got ahead of everyone. But when you are rotating, make sure to check if there is a height looking at you. You need to be aware of your surroundings. Then I could safely look back and spray at people rotating. Since I was in the need of a refresh and I had already gotten tags on this player, I fully committed and got in his box. I accidentally shot my shotgun too early, which caused me to panic and fumble badly. On the second match, I again outdropped the player contesting me. A player did end up trying to lurk on me, however his mistake was hiding behind a left hand peek. If he had a right hand peek instead, maybe his lurk could have turned out differently. For this next fight, I had a good opportunity to get a lurk spray, and it worked. However, my mistake was giving up my pressure to reload my SMG. I should have instantly gone up and claimed more of his tops and applying more pressure. This is what I could have done, for example. This mistake happens many times where I stop the flow of my pressure and sit still to reload my SMG or AR. The fight ends up dragging for a very long time and I'm not able to finish the fight, which griefed my resources terribly. I ended up having to retreat with griefed materials because of one mistake. I noticed the player shucking away from Storm, so I take this opportunity to get a tag on the player and shock towards them. There was two mistakes my opponent made. The first mistake is that the player placed a wooden wall separating me and him. The second mistake was not making more space after that. He continued to stay in that one box, leaving him defenseless. I see a player rotating, so I use this as a good time to shock towards them and get an early beam. However, I only do a little bit of damage while my opponent deals more. The mistake my opponent made was greeting the shock rock on the floor directly in front of my box, allowing me to insta-pumped my opponent and fully boxed him. A third party quickly comes over to get involved in the fight. However, his mistake was that he had a left-hand peek and double pickaxe. So because he double pickaxed, it was really easy for me to time a pre-fire, which made him retreat. Now after all those refreshes and me being max mats of 2 chug chugs, I decided to key a player for no reason. Mind you, this is an area with people rotating into because of a smaller circle. I do not know what went through my mind, but I glided into my opponent's face. I should have landed somewhere farther and closed in if I were to fight, but I got hit hard and was forced to retreat. But apparently I love making mistakes this game because I knew there was a player there, yet I didn't block them off preemptively. I turned my back towards them, giving them a free shot, and I was forced to make a lot of space. When it came down for me to finally rotate, I did a simple shockwave and boxed up quick before I got sprayed. A player had fallen right next to my box, so I took this opportunity to spray and I luckily wiped him out. While I'm rotating, I probably should not have looked for a kill, but this player was really open, so I went for it. Here comes another mistake I made this game. I should have focused on positioning rather than going for a kill. The best advice I can give to you all is to stay front side. The moment you let players get ahead of you, the game is 10 times harder. And then look at me, bro, I'm still tunnel vision on this one player. If I had went front side, I could have had a better chance of finding a refresh. I noticed there was no height, so I tried taking it, but this FNCS height gremlin finalist was low-key putting the belt on me, so I had to back down. So now my mats were so griefed to the point where I had to play Storm. And unfortunately, I did die to Storm. So yeah, this game I had so many mistakes, yet I clutched the top 5. This match was definitely winnable, but oh well, on to the next. A game I really want to analyze with you guys is my game number 7. You guys already know the drill. I outdropped my opponent and wiped him out. While rotating, I heard someone gliding above me, so I picked up a few tags and applied pressure. One mistake I frequently make is shockwaving and jumping toward my opponent. Instead, I should have not jumped to be closer to the ground. Then he made a very wide edit, which I punished with a shotgun tag. When I noticed his lack of awareness, I dropped onto one of his back walls and shotgunned him. And then I used my SMG to spray through his builds, taking advantage of the opportunity. After scouting a free rotate, I shocked and sprint towards circle. Oh yeah, and don't be afraid to build walls to block your angles when rotating. I noticed 2 players fighting each other. This was a free opportunity to spray them since they were so open. I ended up snatching 2 kills. Before shockwaving towards your loot, you guys need to do the 3-second method. Wait for 3 seconds, and if no one goes for the loot, you can go for it. Because there are instances where people see loot and immediately fight for it. I see a player going through it right next to me, so I get in on the action and spray Kim K constantly. I accidentally messed up my initial shockwave, so I immediately paused because there's a kid behind me. After that pause, I shockwave again to get my spot in circle. Now I can look back because I rotated sooner than the people behind me. When it was time to rotate, I put myself in a really good position with my shockwave. I somehow pokeballed someone who was rotating over my box. I made sure they fall into my builds and quickly secure the refresh. I did a little storm play, and after that I shot into zone and went front. Right here, I seem to be focused by height, and since I'm very low now, it is a good time to play Storm and heal up. It ended up pulling back, so I hid in players' builds since I didn't have anything. Since I was being suffocated by builds, I ran around and slid through an opening. Since I had no materials, I used my opponent's builds as cover from height. I ended up getting a nice slide kill on him, and after that I noticed a player fighting for height, so I chopped him and immediately pressured him for loot. When I noticed my opponent on my roof not building at all, I went for high ground knowing he had nothing. When on high, you need to jump, shoot your shotgun, and then place the floor. This method is very effective for chipping down enemy players. Game 9 is another match I want to analyze with you guys. When you're around your final games in a tournament and time is starting to run out, you should not be getting aggressive and keying players. You need to guarantee endgame as much as you can. However, my opponent does get opening damage on me, leaving me at a disadvantage going into this fight. So my immediate response is to play defensive. Don't forget, go for counter damage. My mistake here was getting in front of his wall. It's very easy for an opponent to get damage. I should have approached diagonally instead. Here my opponent made the same mistake I did. He walked right in front of my wall, allowing me to get a free pre-fire. And since he missed too many pistol shots, I barely came out as the winner of the fight. Now this next fight, Yamzo keyed me. Let's see what happens.
How is the audio so far? Alright, you're still good at free firing, bro. Holy fuck. Pop it up for him, dude. This guy is a god, I guess. Or he's on simple, I don't know which one.
So after that fight with the Yamzo, my mats were really griefed since I played defensively really well. I do play Storm so I can skip a lot of the mid game and get out of Storm stacked with materials, but it pulled really far so I used up a lot of my heals and shockwaves. I used the shockwave to rotate and I managed to find boots near a chest. I then used the sliders to find an area where I can re-farm. It's important to try to box up near an area you can replenish the materials you use. One mistake I made was being a little tunnel visioned on this one player, but I luckily focused on positioning rather than forcing a kill. While I'm rotating, I see shockwaves on the floor to my left. I quickly pick them up and try to get into a good spot as fast as I can. Notice how I completely ignore the opponent I was chasing earlier? Everyone needs to have a good position as their priority, not kills. I shock again to cover distance quicker, and then when I get into a comfortable spot, I immediately use a medkit to heal myself. Notice how I fully wrapped around circle? I put myself in a very good position away from all the congestion. My mistake here was not shockwaving sooner. I took too long to rotate to the point where people had already settled and were able to freely look back at me. As I was healing, I realized the person above me had no floor under him and was distracted. I grabbed the floor, break this cone, and placed a ramp, putting him in a really awkward position. He gets away from me, but he does get killed by different players. I went to go see if the loot was available, and I see two teams fighting for it. I carefully stole the loot from them and shockwaved to frontside and instantly boxed up. When it was time to rotate, I realized the majority of the players were on the right side of circle, so I went to the left side as it was least congested. I immediately went to go try claim front low, but then I saw that I was running low on materials, so I looked back for a refresh and this happened. I dropped front low again and instantly popped chug chug to heal myself. When in a situation like this, you must stay crouched at all times to hide your presence. Another important thing to do is to replace and cover yourself as much as you can, and since I was crouched, I was able to get this free shot on this player. Unfortunately, he did hit a max on me, but I had plenty of heals, so it was fine. As I was covering myself on low ground, I noticed the second player was trying to fight the high ground player. I used this opportunity to put myself in a better position and spray the one aggroing height. Since their body fell to the ground, I was able to steal their loot. I noticed height was in all wood, so my immediate response was to chop them. Now this was just a battle of who can get high first. After repeatedly coning my opponent, they run out of mats and it all came down to an aim duel. After that win, in my next matches I did not go for any kills, just pure placement to secure my spot in getting the skin. And there you have it, that was the complete strategy that landed me the Odyssey skin. Hopefully this breakdown gives you a clear roadmap to success in your own tournaments. If you learned something new or found this guide helpful, a like would be awesome, and consider subscribing for more breakdowns like this one because this video seriously took a long time to edit. Thanks for watching and good luck out there. Peace out, Girl Scouts.